Hello everybody, Sunday Adelaja here. We are continuing our classes and our series on Africans and black people. And the question is, are black African people cursed? Nope, nope, nope. If you know and do the research and go into history, you will discover that they are not just not cursed, but they are tremendously blessed, and they have been a blessing to the world, and they will continue to be a blessing to the world. And they have done great things in the past. They are in a kind of remission now, or recession, but they are coming back to do even greater things in the history of the world. So are black African people cursed? No. If the people who are cursed would never be able to conquer a continent that is regarded as the most advanced continent today, Europe. African people conquered Europe and ruled it for like 600-700 years. So today I'm going to be talking about the creation of an African empire in Europe. Creation of an African empire in the middle of Europe. And so please go and share this message. Share, share, share. And here we go. So let us now move directly to creation of the Mauritanian Empire, or Moor. In Europe, in the history book, you read it as Moor, because that's how Europeans and the Catholics call them Moor Empire in Europe. So this is the territory that the Mauritania conquered. They call it Hispanic Mauritania, and because it's mainly the territory of Spain that was under the domination of Mauritania. If you go to the to the map, you can go to the world map and you see Mauritania. There is still a country like that up to today. The country of Mauritania at that time used to be bigger. It used to include countries like Mali, Niger, and other, Guinea and countries like that. So Mauritanians are the Moors that ruled Europe. And but how come how did they get there? How come Africans? I've talked about Moors before. Moors have always been, these Mauritanians have always been fearful and fierce warriors. Even at the times before Christ, long time before Christ, centuries before Christ, they had gone over to Europe and Asia to conquer. They were doing expedition and conquering war expeditions to those places. But the one that we're going to talk about is not an expedition. Is building a complete empire in the middle of Europe and the area of Spain. And many people know about that black people, Moors ruled Europe, but a lot of people don't know who the Moors are. And many people are thinking that these Moors are Arabs because they were Muslims. Now, so how did these Mauritanians become Muslims? How come they went there as a part of a Muslim army that conquered Europe? Why are they Muslims if they are black people? Have black people always been Muslims? No, they were not Muslims before. And even when they used to go to Europe to do the expedition, the war expedition to conquer Europe, in their military expedition, they were not Arabs that time. They were just normal African pagan people. But later on, they became Muslims because, after Muhammad used the military war tactic to spread his religion. So after his death, his disciples and his followers continued to use war as a means of the expansion of the Arab Muslim religion. So they conquered North Africa, and the Moors had been a warring nation for a long time, but they had relaxed by this time because it was thousands of years before then. So, but they were still warring people. But so they were attacked by the Arabs, and the Arabs had conquered. The strategy of the Arabs is that they would go and conquer a land. Let's say they went from Medina to Mecca. When they conquered Mecca, they will give the people their options, and either they submit or they are subdued. So if you submit and you join them, it's like you are part of them. You are integrated, and they have mercy on you. You are not treated like an infidel. So that's how the Muslim army and Muslim prophets and leaders expanded their army. That's how they built their army. All the new territory they conquered, they made all the army of those countries join them. So the new territory they went to, and the army would join them. So by the time the Arabs got to the Muslims and Arabs got to Mauritania, they had added to their forces all those nations that they had conquered before them, including people of Egypt, including people of Morocco, people of Libya. All of them had joined together to them. So they were overwhelmingly more formidable and more in number than the Mauritanians. So after a fierce battle with the Muslims, the Mauritanians people just decided to give up, to surrender, especially since they were telling them that they brought the faith of one God and everything. So that's how the Mauritanian warriors or Maur warriors surrendered, and the whole country became Muslim. And because they became Muslim, now it was after many years later, hundreds of years later, maybe not like, I think hundreds of years later, that now they were Muslims. So now when they decided to do, the Muslims decided to take their faith to Europe, and they had distribution of work, because they were now seeing the Mauritanians as Muslims as well, and they know that they are warriors, they are the most fierce warriors. So what the Muslims decided to do, the Arabs decided to do, is to give, because they were conquering Europe, they were conquering Asia, they were going everywhere. So the portion that was allotted for the Maur warriors, because they were their strongest warriors, was to go to conquer Europe. So not just the Maur, not just the Mauritanians, but the Mauritanians were the head of the army that included people from Libya, that included people from Morocco, that included the citizens that used to live in Egypt. And now they were all, this is at the point when all those places were becoming Arab nations, so more Arabs, because they had been mixed up, and so all those armies from all those regions were led by the Moors. So the emphasis were on the Moors because they were the bigger number of the soldiers and the army and the leaders of the army. So they were the ones leading. Of course, they had a few Arabs with them, Arab Muslims. So they were also there, maybe not a few, maybe 40% or 30% of them were Arabs, were also there. And so they were together. But when you see them referred to as Moors, they are talking about the blacks, the Mauritanians. But when you see them, they have another name, Sapiens or something, or not Sapiens, what do you call it? I will give you the name. They have three names they used to call them. Okay, the Arabs were called, the blacks were called Maur or Berbers in Arab. It's the same thing as Moors. But when the Europeans will call them, they will call them Moors. The Arabs will call Africans Berbers, and not just Africans, but all those people from North Africa that were conquered were called Berbers. And then they had Saracens, they call the Europe called Saracens, both Muslims and both Arabs and Africans together were called Saracens. Yeah, so that is the difference. You see the difference. And so when the reference is mainly on Moors, that means they are talking about Africa. That is why I call this particular message the creation of an African empire in Europe. Yes, there were Arabs there too, and there were Muslims, but the people, the majority of people who built that empire were Moors, who are Africans. So that's why I call it African Empire in Europe. Okay, here we go. So at the beginning of the 8th century, after a long resistance to the Arab conquest of North Africa, Moors joined the triumphal spread of Islam. As a result, they went from Morocco to the Iberian Peninsula, where their swift victories and distinctive deeds became legends. So this is the territory where they conquered. A man chosen to probe the soil in Iberia, another name for the Iberian Peninsula, was TARIQ Ibn Malik. He belonged to a younger generation of Islamized Berbers, so they were already Islamized by this time, impregnated with military thinking of warlords. Hassan ibn al-Mumin died 710, and MUSA bin NUSAIR, who led the Arab takeover of Northwest Africa. So he became indoctrinated by their doctrines. In July 710, according to English historian Edward Gibbon, TARIQ, accompanied by 400 Africans and 100 Arabs. You see the percentage, you see? 400 to 100. So that's why I call it African Empire in Europe. 400, and that is 1/5 is Arabs, 1/4 is Africans. So he successfully carried out his mission in South Iberia, an important port city. Tarifa in southern Spain is named after him. So that Tarifa city is named after this black man here. Yeah. His name was TARIQ Ibn Malik. So this is the old town Tarifa in southern Spain. This city was the first port in history where fees were charged from merchants for the use of birds. This is where the term tarif comes from. So, and his name is Tarif, and you know tarif is like fees. So because it was the first place where that practice started, they started using the word tarif as fines or as fees. Thus, we find out that we use the name Tarif, which is the name of this African warrior, in our daily economic relations. On the basis of Tarif's intelligence operation, Arab general, also of barbarian origin, also a black person, from the Nafza tribe, TARIQ IBN ZIYAD received information that the Iberian Peninsula could be seized. Previously, Musa ibn NUSAIR appointed him the ruler of the Western Maghreb, the territory of present-day Southern Morocco. TARIQ commanded an army of 10,000 people, mostly Berbers, Africans, from Sanhaji Union. In 711, brave TARIQ, with his expeditionary forces of 7,000 Berbers and a small number of Arab translators and advocates, crossed the strait and landed near a rock that was later named in his honor, Gibraltar. So this Gibraltar is from the name of TARIQ. The word Gibraltar is a Hispanized version of an Arabic phrase, Jabal Tariq, that meant Mount Tariq. Today, the territory of Gibraltar occupies a strategic position over the Strait of Gibraltar, carrying the name of warlord Tariq. Connected, that's another African. But so why do they have Arab names? Because they became Muslims. These were not Arabs' names. These are more Muslim names. Connecting the Mediterranean Sea with the Atlantic Ocean, and is a NATO naval base now. In August 711, TARIQ won a decisive victory over the European army. The day before this battle, TARIQ raised his army spirit by the following words. It was documented. "Oh, my warriors, where would you run? The sea is behind you, the enemy is ahead of you, and all is for your courage and fortitude. In battle, I will fight ahead of you, where the chances of surviving are especially low. Get some patience now, and later you will get the ultimate pleasure in return. Don't think that your destiny may be separated from mine, and be sure that if you fall in battle, I will perish with you or avenge you. Remember that I will be in front of you myself, and I will be involved in what I am calling you for. And when the two armies are at arm's length, you will see me, and I will seek for Roderick. Now, Roderick was the leader of the army from the European side. It was the Christian army, the Europeans who were defending their territory, who were defending Europe from this Arab invasion and from this Muslim invasion. The tyrant of my people, and will call him for a battle, if it be the will of Allah. Even if I die fighting him, you will easily find an experienced warrior among you who will lead you further. But if I fall before I get to Roderick, eventually Roderick is the one who was killed, and that's how they were able to conquer Europe. Double your eagerness, attack and conquer this country, kill him instead of me, in my place, instead of me killing him. Without him, his warriors will no longer resist you, and that's what happened. Roderick died, and the European warriors gave way. They gave up. After Roderick's death in battle, resistance of Visigoths ran very low. Visigoths were the Spanish warriors, and TARIQ, with his tireless army, not wasting time to enjoy his victory, soon conquered Cordoba, Malaga, and the capital Toledo. During 1 month, General TARIQ IBN ZIYAD destroyed the dominance of Europeans in the Iberian Peninsula. And you know, TARIQ is the same person we're talking about, the black man from whose name they got the word Gibraltar. Arab ruler of North Africa, MUSA ibn NUSAIR, with an army of 18,000, joined. You see, so TARIQ had 70,000. How many thousand? 7,000. 7,000 warriors that he moved over to, that he used to conquer that territory, that Europe. But it was only after he had conquered Europe that the Arab army, the Arab leader, came with an army of 18,000 because they needed to occupy the place, joined TARIQ in Spain, and helped accomplish the conquest of Iberia. The two commanders met in Talavera de la Reina, where Moors were given a task, you see. So the Moors, the blacks, were the people given the assignment, the task to subdue the northwest of Spain. They commenced their mission with double strength and speed, and within 3 months, they captured the entire area of the Ebro River up to the Pyrenees, and annexing the land of disobedient Basque people. They are the ones who conquered Basque land. There, they left a small branch under the command of the Berber Lieutenant Munusa. Berber Lieutenant Berber is also African, who would later play a decisive role in Muslim campaigns in southern France. Although many historians call TARIQ's soldiers Berbers, Berbers is the word for that the Arabs used to describe the people of North Africa. Berbers and Arabs, primary sources such as historian Hussein, or about 950 years, indicate that these troops were Sudanese. So what is Sudanese? Sudanese is Africans, because Sudan is the word blacks from Arab language. In the Arab world, black people were called Sudanese. No, maybe not, it's not in the Arab language, but that's the way Arab people call black people, Sudanese. Arab writers Ajans and Ibn al-Athir also indicated this in their works, stating that there had been 700 Sudanese in TARIQ's garrison. The conquest of Spain was carried out by African Muslims, not Arabs. And that's 7,000, I'm sorry, that was 7,000 Sudanese, not 700, 7,000 Sudanese. So, so it is the Africans that conquered Spain. Christian primary sources describing this conquest, in particular a historical book, The History of Spain by King Alfonso X, tell of raising color-faced Moors, and that the most beautiful of them was black as a pot. So there is no doubt about this. during the victorious journey of Moors in Europe in the 9th century in order to establish economic dominance in the region. Tunisian Muslim forces captured Sicily, Italy. A large and well-organized fleet that came from the east of Spain and the western Maghreb, manned mainly by Berber warriors, facilitated this conquest, having begun in 827. The conquest ended in the assault of Palermo. Having begun in 827, then the occupation of Messina in 842 and Syracuse in 878 followed. Later, an Arab geographer and traveler in 937 noted that blacks were very common in Palermo, and it's for obvious reasons. They are the ones who conquered it. Of course, they got mixed up with the women there, and the children became mixed. A lot of Spain people are, colored. That's the reason, because people started mixing up and living for 700 years. One of the main entrances to the city was called Bab es Soudan, the gates of the black, named after its black inhabitants. Pope Leo III referred to these black warriors as Moors, Hagarenes, yeah, that's like Muslims, and Saracen. Now, when they call them Hagarenes and Saracen, they are talking about Muslims, and like they are infidels, like they are Muslims. Saracen also, that's what they call the mixture of both blacks and Arabs, just all of them together. Hagarenes, Saracens. But when they call them Moors, that's when they are talking about blacks. The Muslim invasion of mainland Europe took place in 846 when Saracens, you see, this is the word I was looking for in the beginning, Saracens, that's the Muslims, black, Arabs, all of them, landed at the mouth of the Tiber and besieged Rome. After Rome was captured, Pope John VIII agreed to pay a tribute to Saracens in the amount of 25,000 silver marks a year, more than 6 tons of silver, for them to retreat. Holy Roman Emperor and King of Sicily and Germany Frederick II from the Hohenstaufen dynasty developed a particularly close relationship with the remaining blacks in Sicily and hired for himself a Moorish chamberlain who was always with him. A black chamberlain, that is like prime minister or somebody who was in charge of his consulary or chamber. In the intense and continuing struggle against papacy, he requested assistance from the Moors. So he formed an elite defense unit of 16,000 black warriors. One of the independent rulers of Moorish origin with whom Frederick cooperated was Morabit. Among the Berber tribes, he is known as Sanhaji Berbers. In 1239, another black person, JOHANN MAURUS, occupied the highest position at Hohenstaufen court. In his works, PAUL KAPLAN indicates the presence of black Muslims in southern Italy and Sicily throughout several centuries, you see. And Germany, it went up to Germany. Among the major Berber groups that occupied Spain, there were Houaras, Luwata, Masmuda, Makna, Zenata, and Sanhaja. Before taking part in the conquest of Spain, the 8th century Houaras Berbers in Africa took control of Tripolitania province and the desert in South Sudan. So you conquer, South Tunisia, Tripolia, that is Libya of today. So anyway, you see, these are historic things. I'm not making up anything from my head. I'm talking about history right now. These are historic facts. They worship the Libyan sun god Amun, depicted as a ram. After the conquest of Spain, they settled in Cordoba and formed a city near Jaén. Many of Houaras also settled in Merida and Medellin. Abd al-Rahman ibn Musa al-Havari was a judge in Ezija town during the rule of Abd al-Rahman III. Both TARIQ IBN ZIYAD and Abd al-Rahim I, the founder of the Umayyad dynasty that ruled most of Spain until 1031, belonged to the Berber Nafza tribe. So they were of the African heritage. By the way, one of the most important reasons for Abd al-Rahman's success as a monarch was that he had hired a well-trained army of 40,000 Berbers from Africa. Many representatives of Nafza tribe settled in Spain. In Osuna, many Nafza Berbers became public figures, writers, and theologians. They also constituted a large proportion of the Cordoba Emirate population. An Arab historian described Masmuda Berbers as black-skinned. In Spain, they settled in Taifa de Moron, Cordoba, Valencia, Guadalajara, and Santander. They also settled in southern Portugal. They also achieved prosperity and high status. So you wonder why a lot of Portuguese and Spain are dark-skinned, are a little bit dark here, a little bit colored. Explanation for you. Abd al-Mumin, the founder of the mighty Almohad dynasty, belonged to this tribe. Berbers who captured Castile were from the Zenata tribe, which gave the name to Senegal. That is where the Senegalese people. They spoke Cushite Hamitic language. The founders of the Almoravid dynasty were Sanhaji Berbers. So those were of Senegalese extract. Arab chronicler Al-Fasi described Emperor Yusuf from the Almoravid dynasty as brown-skinned with curly hair. Among his troops there was his personal entourage of 4,000 blacks. Thus, we became acquainted with the journey of the undefeated army of black warriors who conquered the territory of the future Mauritanian Empire and emphasized the actual crucial role of Africans in this process. Further on, we will have an opportunity to appreciate the greatness of this civilization. All right. So you see, these are all from my book, How Africans Brought Civilization to Europe. So it's an historic fact that is based on research. You can do your own research on it, and you find out that black people have always been great, and they will be greater very soon. So please go ahead and share this message. Let's spread the word. And as you do that, please, you can also join. I'm inviting you to join my mentorship class, the mentorship group or program, which is on my blog, sundaydelajablog.com/mentorship. Also, if you want to come and do History Makers training with me, you just go to the same blog, sundaydelajablog.com/HMT, History Makers training, HMT. If you also wish to get my books, you can get them on that same blog, sundaydelajablog.com/books. If you want to come with us to Africa to build a better Africa, just go to sundaydelajablog.com, the same blog, /Nigeria. So, we'll be happy to have you and to, do our best to build a great nation. But I would like to show you a video, meanwhile, that will also emphasize this lesson that we have learned today. So thank you so much for your time, and we will go ahead to get the video ready. Blessings.
You may have heard of them, maybe you haven't, but the word Moor simply means black. It was a title that was given to them because of their dark skin. Many people believe that Moor also means Muslim, but the truth is there were many different types of Moors. There were Muslim Moors, there were Jewish Moors, Christian Moors, and some that practiced a Kemetic African faith. As a result of the Roman civilization collapsing, Europe fell into a dark age for 500 years. By 711 AD, the Moors made their way into Spain, crossing from Africa to the Iberian Peninsula. After the invasion in 711, more Moors arrived, soon dominating Europe. For 700 years, the Africans who dominated Spain and much of southwest Europe brought a level of civilization that had not been seen since the ancient Greeks, who were students of North Africans, ruled Europe. Irrigation systems constructed by Moorish engineers. They also created paved roads and public restrooms. Education thrived in Moorish Spain, including 17 universities, 800 schools, several colleges, and public libraries and bookstores containing 700,000 manuscripts. The Moors during this time were also heavy translators of ancient Kemetic texts and scientific texts. This was also especially important considering the fact that 99% of the population were illiterate, including the king, who could not read or write during this time. During the time of translating texts, the Moors had translated the works of the Greeks, not knowing that they were actually translating the works of their own ancestors that the Greeks had misunderstood. The Moors were also aware that the world was round and not flat. They took their knowledge of geography and created maps that showed all land and sea routes, their location in relation to the latitude and longitude. It is no surprise that when Christopher Columbus decided to explore the world, on his flag in the city of Cordova, the Moors constructed splendid palaces with manicured lawns, marble, carved walls with heavily decorated hallways, grand fountains, bright lamps, and 700 mosques, all while kings were unfortunately living in large barns with unfinished chimneys with no windows. The Moors also introduced proper hygiene, such as wearing undergarments and bathing with soap and water, which before this time was thought to be a sin and an unclean thing to do. Also in the city, there were 80,455 shops and 4,300 markets, where you could purchase anything from spices, silks, glass, leather, pottery, and other goods. The Moors excelled in education, but they also enjoyed leisure activities, such as horseback riding, marksmanship, chess, and they even enjoyed discussing war tactics and strategies. The Moors were also heavy listeners of music. They brought into Europe classical music, the piano, and other string instruments.